we're seeing restaurant orders decline. We're seeing retail orders decline. It is now harder and more expensive to sell Canadian wine in Alberta than it has ever been.
Less than a year after the Alberta government introduced a new tax on wine above a certain price point, retailers in the hospitality sector say they're taking a big hit and they're fed up. Joining us now, Reid White, president of Cellar Maker Imports. That's a boutique wine and spirit importer based in Calgary. Mr. White, welcome to Alberta Primetime.
Thank you very much, Michael. Happy to be here.
All right. The province calls this an ad valorem tax. We talked about it on a panel last spring, and my recollection is it was quite complex. But as someone in the industry, how would you boil down that complexity? What is this tax?
Well, I mean, this is a tax really on the voting public and people that consume wine in Alberta. Ad valorem, I think, is just a Latin term to keep it as confusing as possible in our circles. But essentially, for government, this is a tax that's being applied to wine and only wine within Alberta. And it's a sliding scale, but essentially it's a new tax that was added on as of April 1st of 2025. And it's a sliding scale of 5%, 10%, and 15% tax, depending on what wine you're consuming basically within Alberta.
Okay, so on that consumer's standpoint perspective, what does that do to the price customers are paying and maybe even the choices they end up making?
Yeah, I think when you look at something like that, I mean, everybody has a budget. And depending what you like to drink, if and for a lot of people that didn't even see this coming or understand that it was happening, but essentially what we're sort of seeing, I think, is for people either, you're seeing less choice in the province, you're seeing people drink down or maybe decrease in their overall quality of what they might be drinking wine-wise. We're seeing escalating prices across the board in the province. And I would say certainly an erosion of the value of what you might be consuming. And it's very important to know that, we exist in this sort of flat tax province previously, and Alberta was very competitive on that front. And people sort of, doesn't matter the value of the wine, you can drink whatever you want, but here's a tax that sort of the government gets their piece and everyone else sort of gets along with that. And this is sort of a tax on top of another tax on top of another tax. So certainly for everyone here that's facing any sort of, interest rates, inflation, spending and sort of budgeting issues, this is just another thing that makes life a little bit more expensive for the common person in our province.
Okay, well, and your industry obviously taking some degree of a hit as well here. But is there someone out there who stands to benefit?
Well, it sounds like it's really just the government that's benefiting, and I would say in addition to that, you'd probably see some of the multinational corporations. I mean, to really sort of run down things, they would be the ones that benefit. I think there's a lot of multinational corporations in the liquor industry and the wine industry where that money doesn't stay in the province. I think what people forget is most of the agents, importers, and distributors like myself are small business owners based here in Alberta or within Canada, and the idea is we hire locally, we keep our money here, we invest locally, we expand locally and do all those sorts of things. So I think the bigger, larger companies that were sort of either immune to the tax, they were able to sort of skip over this, and their profits leave our province and country, where the rest of us are sort of caught holding the bill. You've got a whole bunch of small business owners now either trying to absorb some of the tax to keep things competitive or passing it directly on to the consumer and just making life more expensive for everybody else. And in some cases, I think our industry might be looked at as sort of in contraction, if you will, rather than wanting to be in expansion, which is we'd rather be hiring somebody and bringing staff on and bringing new wines and wineries sort of to the market. Instead, we're sort of looking at, hey, how long can we afford to do this? How long can we afford to sort of absorb these costs before it starts to affect the bottom line and whether the business is viable? And that also translates into restaurants and hotels as well. I mean, this is the tax that once it's applied on our end, this is just the wholesale side of it. It then sort of gets doubled each time as you look at what a retailer adds on as their percentage or margin, what restaurants must add on in order to stay in business, what hotels do as well. So it's a really tricky time for our industry, that is for sure.
Dale Nally, he's Alberta's Minister of Red Tape Reduction,
He
issued a statement this week, and it says Alberta is the most tax-friendly and open and free jurisdiction in Canada for alcohol, including wine. Our government's ad valorem tax applies to about 16% of wine sold, and after taxes, a $20 a bottle of wine at invoice prices up to 87% more expensive in other provinces compared to Alberta. And it goes on to say the ad valorem tax, not a new concept, used by many provinces across Canada. So, Reid, how does that position resonate with you?
Well, I mean, I think there's not a lot of truth in all of that. I think he misrepresents the facts. The truth is, when this tax is implemented, our province brings in approximately 18,500 different SKUs of wine or products of wine. This tax affects 17,500 of them. So that's about 94% of all the wine that comes into Alberta affected by this tax. And the highest tax tier, it's about 11,000 different products in Alberta that see a 15% tax added onto it. There may be other provinces that are using a structure like this, but Alberta, this was an unnecessary tax to add on. Basically, we had a very successful system that was the envy of the world, and now Alberta has quickly jumped up to being one of the most expensive liquor and wine markets in North America. So for him to say that we're still competitive, I just don't think there's a truth there for sure. And there were just easier ways to do this. Why target wine, I think, is a big one. Why just wine, and why just wine at a certain price? We're not talking about Copper Moon and Naked Grape. There's no tax on those as entry-level products in the market that are industrialized and made elsewhere. So I just sort of look at it as like, why this? When you could have maybe done a flat tax of 2% and done it across the board of every product sort of available for purchase, whether you're a spirit drinker, an RTD drinker, or beer drinker.
All right. We've run out of time. We have to leave it there.
Okay.
Really appreciate your time this evening, Reid. Thank you kindly.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Michael. Have a nice evening.
Reid White, president of Cellar Maker Imports in Calgary.